It's November 2020 and we're into this year's second lockdown. Let's go on a video tour of Wickersley, my local area, and see what's happening, both with the village in general and as a result of the lockdown. This is our local park, Wickersley Park. Nice day for it, nice day for a wander round in the autumn sunshine. There's actually not as many people around as there were yesterday, although I came out a bit earlier yesterday, so. This is the children's play area that's recently been refurbished. During the first lockdown, or soon after, they took all the old equipment out and put new equipment in. Then over here we've got one of those outdoor gyms, which funnily enough I don't think I've ever seen anyone use. It's been there a few years, but I've never really seen anyone use it. Got plenty of people walking dogs around though, so that's plenty of exercise. The swings look fun. The play area does carry on over here. This used to just be field. Don't let silence kill you. Oh, it's about suicide prevention. There's an advert there for the Rotherham crisis team, 24 hours a day. They recently took a bit of bad publicity in the local paper after they annoyed someone. I've been assured by someone who's used them that they're absolutely useless, so I probably wouldn't call them myself. Yes, we're still in England. Yes, we're still in Wickersley. I believe the US Air Force ambulance is actually someone's hobby. More coronavirus-related waste. Looks like these things are the new fag ends. Of course, Rediffusion is actually a vintage cable TV service. I believe it was there in the 60s. Or maybe the 70s. Definitely predates me. Certainly not in use anymore, although the manhole covers are still there. Of course, the post office telephones are more relevant these days. We still have the telephone network, even if it's not called post office. Geston Crimes were a company in Rotherham who made fire hydrants and other things. Not there anymore. Of course, even BT's not as relevant as it once was. I'd probably say OpenReach nowadays. I wonder if someone got fed up of wearing a face covering and keeping the distance. I was just going to comment on the display that tells you to wear a face covering and how they're not publicising the exemptions, but this one actually says wear a face covering unless exempt. Now I was going to comment on the fact that public sector businesses have what's known as the public sector equality duty, and that's to ensure that disabled people and minorities get full access, and I think they should be promoting both the fact that you legally have to wear a face covering and the fact that people are exempt, including disabled people, but very few people are actually promoting the exemptions. And in fact some people are actually excluding disabled people, as we'll see later on. So it's good to see that the screens have been updated to inform people. One might be inclined to think that with the recent lockdown measures that things would be less busy, although they're certainly not as quiet as it was the first time we had a lockdown. Of course, this time around the schools are open. These signs advising people of fines for trespassers causing nuisance have been here longer than I care to remember. I do wonder if anyone's ever got one of the £50 fines. Nice advert for Microsoft. There's been a lot of scarecrows lurking around Wickersley lately. The parish council issued a challenge for people to make them and display them outside their houses. There's even a headless one here. Now this is a relatively large doctor's surgery here in Wickersley. It has actually stayed open during the lockdown, so you are able to actually go in. Unlike some surgeries, a friend of mine in Sheffield went to his local surgery when he injured himself and was presented with rude finger gestures through a locked door. Now I know from experience that these aren't quite that bad, although they do like to give away people's personal information. They do like to leave people without medication and leave them ill. They like to breach the Data Protection Act, and I think they even commit fraud. There's a chemist there which the doctors derive rental income from, I'm sure, but also the senior partner is a shareholder in the chemist, so they like to send prescriptions. They either conveniently lose them, or if they've nowhere else to send them to, they'll send them to this one where the doctors will profit, even though the NHS entitles you to choice. As is common with many doctors' surgeries, this one has umpteen posters cluttering up the windows. Naturally, there's a 10% price increase for the luxury of waiting outside and wearing a mask. Need a computer with internet access to go to church now. Right, this is our local church, St Albans of Wickersley. Became quite famous recently for having a homophobic vicar. We thought that telling people about perfectly legal homosexual relationships in school was indoctrinating them into a Marxist agenda. He did quit from the was at the school, although I don't know whether he ever apologised for his offensive comments. Really goes to show that homosexual people like me, even in the 21st century, aren't even welcome in a church. Now, I don't think this gentleman, the vicar, was... I think he was very misled with his comments. I think he'd been misled into believing that something was more extreme than it actually was. But he certainly doesn't seem to have done any research into it, and he seemed quite stuck on his opinion, so let's go and find something else to look at. This is my old primary school, the Church of England school that's associated with St Albans Church. Of course, they're doing the social distancing by having people going through different gates. This is the Tan Yard, our local shopping area. Doesn't look as busy as it normally would be at 9:30 on a Thursday morning, but we are still in the lockdown number 2. Volunteers needed for a closed shop. A job vacancy, that's a rarity now. Greggs is remaining open this time. Cusworth's is a very nice butcher's shop and delicatessen, although I don't go in much these days as I do most of my shopping in the town centre. I don't like doing shopping in Wickersley as much as I used to. Well, it's good that they're being polite about it, but there's actually no reason. I'd imagine quite a lot of people in a shop like this, a mobility shop that serves a lot of elderly and disabled people, probably wouldn't be required to wear a mask. Although it's closed due to the pandemic. The Chinese has had a new sign up, although the shop's been here probably at least over 20 years. Well, they're trying to comply with the law. I couldn't help but notice this insulting one when I came past the other day. They are trying to comply with the law. They are commenting on the exemptions, but they require proof. Well, disabled people don't carry much medical evidence around with them. People wouldn't show it in a Chinese takeaway. Another one with no exemptions, although they're closed because of the pandemic as well. No entry into the salon because not like anyone wants customers. Please be kind to our store team, or maybe that we'd be kind to them if they were kind to us. This is the local co-op, which employs a bratty little girl who for some reason I always end up at her till. After she was doing a silly thing about social distancing a few months ago, I decided it's not worth my effort to come in anymore. Do I really want to be a hero? Of course, no mention of the exemptions. Even the postmen are wearing masks now. This is our nice fish and chip restaurant. This always used to be a little takeaway fish and chip shop and was here for many decades. It got taken over, I think. I don't know if it got taken over or if it got bought by someone or whether it's the same owners, but it got extensively renovated and converted into a combined restaurant and takeaway a few years ago. And the restaurant's really very nice. Well, it's a polite request, but they still try and say it's to protect you. Right, that's the tan yard looked at. We've got the other side of the road, which technically is not the tan yard, but people refer to the whole area as the tan yard. I don't know what it is with vet surgeries. Every time I go past one, there's always people waiting outside. Lots of rules in that business. Now this place here used to be a nice run-of-the-mill coffee shop. It served coffees, breakfast, lunch and delicious cake. I don't know what happened to it. It must have got sold or the lease expired or something. I don't know what happened, but it's been taken over 2 or 3 times. It's gradually got posher ever since. They did it all up and made it really fancy and a lot more expensive. And now they've done all this stuff. They've built a big thing, not quite onto the pavement, but they've extended the building so it's a lot bigger now. Now Lawrence Brothers Maltby, LBM, is a big DIY store around here. There's one here, one at Maltby up the road. There used to be a small one down at the Stag, but that closed. It's very long standing, been here many years, probably many decades. Tends to be a very well regarded shop. So I got banned from there a few years ago for being the wrong kind of person. Spent ages staring at me and then decided they're not going to serve me because I'm the wrong kind of person, so I don't go in there anymore. People keep continuing to speak very highly of the store, but as far as I'm concerned, the Lawrence Brothers can go and fuck themselves. It's the kind of store that you would hope would go out of business with that sort of attitude, but it's always very busy, and despite the recent lockdowns, DIY shops have been considered essential shops. So even the coronavirus hasn't saved me, but it certainly saved them. Of course, we do have a number of pubs in the area, including the Three Horseshoes, and further up is the Masons, which I'll show you in a moment. They're all shut again due to the lockdown. Alan Smith is a long-standing physiotherapist in the area. He's been in business 50 odd years. He was a physiotherapist to the England football team, so quite highly regarded. Unfortunately, his idea of physiotherapy seems to be to shove you under some sort of electrical machine that does absolutely sod all, and then go bugger off to attend to another patient at the same time. How that's supposed to work, and of course you pay for that, so as far as I'm concerned, you're better off finding a better physiotherapist, and probably a cheaper one. The one I found in Doncaster was actually £4 cheaper than this bloke, and far better. Another estate agent that's appointment only. They've even got an NHS QR code. There's really no need for that in an estate agent, because there's no need to actually have for people to actually register in an estate agent. It's really only for restaurants and pubs, but a lot of people are doing them anyway because they seem to support the cause. Now, this little building at one time used to be a nice little bookshop, Philip Howard Books. They moved up from Rotherham Town Centre. Unfortunately, they closed down a few years ago, and that means we don't have an independent bookshop in Rotherham anymore. In fact, we don't even have anything like a W.H. Smith. Fortunately, these have reopened as other shops, as an estate agent and a blind shop. So it's not like it's empty. But we don't have a bookshop anymore. I believe Philip Howard are still in business. They have a shop in Leeds, but it's a bit of a trek from Rotherham to Leeds to buy a book. I don't want to offend anyone. This building's a good example of what I mean when I say the place at Wickersley's been taken over by posh snob type people. This used to be a nice little butcher's and a nice little deli. That closed down a few years ago. The butcher's got taken over by someone else. I think it was someone in Sheffield, but that's since closed down. I don't know why. Now, there were talks about it being a micro pub or something, but I think it's going to be either a pub or a restaurant, or maybe yet another restaurant. There's no shortage of those already. I'll probably be going upstairs, but it's currently doing a lot of work. This has always been a barber's or hairdresser's of some description, at least while I've been living here. It did become Taylor Barbers a few years ago. This has just changed. It's now Top Cuts Barbers. It looks like someone's probably taken it over. But as soon as they've taken it over, they've had to close because of the second lockdown. Now, this is another good example of the place being taken over by posh people. This is a posh bar, always full of people. They even, you can tell it's posh because they have these electric heaters outside, so every time you spend money in a place like this, you're basically paying their electricity bill, which gives off heat to go straight out into the atmosphere. Of course, they're not quite as posh places, don't do silly things like that. This here's the telephone exchange. Of course, with the VDSL and fibre to the premises, these street cabinets here might mean the end of the traditional telephone exchange. This shop at the other side of the road here was a Subway for about 10 years or so. That's now shut. Don't know what it's going to be. Okay then. Salon hygiene and people protection. Amazingly, the bank's open and it doesn't even have a queue. Normally they're queuing for miles at here. Now they've closed all the other branches. Cobbler's been here quite a long time, although I've never been in. Here we've got a post office. It did change hands a couple of years ago. Oddly, it's one of those shops that, one of those strange places you go in and they don't want you to post things. You know, heaven forbid that you would ever want to post something in a post office. Evidently the heroes were putting lots of signs up about social distancing. So at this place you have to comply with a dress code, but only at certain days and times. Evidently you can't go to the pub after work. No idea what happened there. I guess he probably drove over the roundabout. Anyone watching this video might know that I don't care much for the NHS. Well, the parish council recently put a big display on that said "Thank you NHS" on this roundabout. That was highly insulting to patients like me who have to put up with the NHS, and it was quite depressing really to have to see that every time I come past. I bet the people at the local doctor's surgeries loved it though. I bet they loved all the attention, being treated like heroes. In fact, I did read a comment recently that said that they were a bit disappointed at no longer being considered heroes.